Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Welcome on into Nashville's Morning News along with Johnny B. Ken Weaver. I'm Dan Mandis. On the Newsmaker Hotline, joining us right now is Senator Bill Hagerty. Want to check in with the senator and find out his thoughts on Joe Biden and the State of the Union tonight, a bit of a preview. One of the things that I noted in the 5 o'clock hour, Senator, and thank you for joining us, is that you have basically most of the American people are going to be watching for one reason, and that is that there's a big curiosity as to whether or not the president will faceplant, literally fall, as he's going up to the podium. It's my contention, Senator, though, that the last 3 years has really been a bit of a faceplant as it relates to, legislatively speaking and running our country. It has been a complete train wreck. How does the president tonight, is there any way to defend what he's done?
Well, of course, there is no way to defend it. We'll be watching what he says. And certainly, figuratively speaking, it will be a faceplant. I feel certain about that because that would be par for the course. But literally speaking, it just as you were describing what might happen tonight, I thought about the last time I was with President Trump. Actually, the second to the last time I was with President Trump was about 2 weeks ago. 2.5 weeks ago down at Mar-a-Lago, and he had been in South Carolina for a rally. He left Mar-a-Lago at 6 a.m. that morning, Dan. Traveled around the country, long rally in South Carolina. He came back 7:30 p.m. He came walking into Mar-a-Lago. I was waiting for him there in the main sitting area, and he came walking in with his red tie, his suit on. 7:30 p.m. So he left at 6 a.m., came in full day, 7:30. I thought, if Joe Biden had a day like that, they'd be bringing him in a gurney. President Trump came in, sat down, we talked about world affairs, and it just is a night and day comparison with Joe Biden, who is so frail and so mentally challenged at this point in time. It's frankly, I hate to talk about it, given that he's the commander in chief right now, but it's an embarrassment to the nation.
One of the questions that I would have, and your guest tonight is going to be Governor Bill Lee for the State of the Union. I know that Governor Lee just went down to visit National Guard troops, our National Guard troops there on the border. When you talk about what has been happening on the southern border, just a couple of days ago, we found out that the president actually directly flew migrants into America. And you have, which is something I think that we've always known, but now we know it officially, and the number, which was, if I'm not mistaken, about 320,000. But when you look at what's going on the southern border, there really is, I think at least for me, there's two big stories coming out of the State of the Union tonight. Number one is the disaster on the border. Number two would be, of course, the economic issues that the president has faced over the last 3 years. So, and we have all faced. And so when you look at the border specifically, I don't know how the president can spin this into any kind of a positive. He's only going to try to blame Republicans.
I think that's exactly right, Dan. It'll be a blame-shifting exercise tonight. I was down at the border just before Governor Lee came down, and just a couple of days before Tennessee National Guardsmen arrived at the Del Rio sector. I've been to the border in California. I've been to it in Arizona. I've been multiple times to Texas, but I can tell you this. It's the worst it has ever been, Dan. And to see what is happening down there now, it is carnage. I met with a rancher down there. He showed me the fencing on his property. He said, they cut it every night. I can't run cattle here anymore. He's lost his livelihood. He told me that just a couple of weeks ago, he caught 15 Syrians on his property. Now, the Biden proposition is just show up and claim that you want asylum, and I'll give you cash. I'll clean you up, fresh clothing, and I'll give you a ticket, whether it be by air, by rail, by bus. I'll give you a ticket to anywhere you want to go in America. Why weren't these Syrians showing up and taking the white glove treatment that Joe Biden has to offer them? You really got to ask yourselves, what are they here to do? It's frightening when you think about it. This same rancher told me that he had his wife wake him up early one morning. She said she could hear something out in the kitchen. He walks into the kitchen. There are 20, as he described it, military-aged adult males in his kitchen eating out of his refrigerator. They drank everything in the refrigerator, and when he confronted them, they said, "You're out of beer. Go get us more." Can you believe that? Can you believe that people show up, quote, claiming their rights in America? rights that Joe Biden is providing them, rights that Americans don't have. They're kicking kids out of schools up in New York so they can put migrants into the schools and telling the kids to go home and study by Zoom. That same congressional district where it happened, they've caught the congresswoman on the air saying that I need these migrants for redistricting purposes. We all know what this is about. This is about them using these illegal aliens to count for purposes of congressional districts and electoral votes. Most Americans are shocked when they find out that's the way it works, but that is the way it works. That is the motive behind all of this.
612, Nashville's Morning News on Super Talk 99.7. We've got Senator Bill Hagerty joining us for preview of the State of the Union. And just staying along those lines, the latest, I don't know if you've seen this, Senator, but just this morning, an illegal migrant from Venezuela took part in a drive-by shooting and now has been charged with attempted murder. And that is south side of Chicago, if I'm not mistaken. So we're going to see a lot more of these. President Trump, former President Trump, he says that if he gets elected into office again, he is going to embark on a massive deportation policy initiative. And I guess my question is, as a sitting U.S. Senator, number one, I very much applaud that, and I think that that is a good idea. My question is, realistically, how successful do you think that that kind of an initiative would be?
Well, of course, Joe Biden is making it very, very challenging. You talk about the Venezuelan that just committed a crime. It was a Venezuelan migrant who killed the young lady down at the University of Georgia. The men that beat police officers there in New York and walked with no bail. We saw this on TV, kicking and beating the police. These are Venezuelan gangs that are operating here in America, and Joe Biden is letting them in. When I talked with Border Patrol agents, what they told me is that they have no information on somebody. The presumption is they can enter. They don't know anything about Venezuela because we don't cooperate with them. Maduro doesn't cooperate with the United States of America. And what I've been told is that we have crime organizations. Look, the cartels control the entirety of the northern border of Mexico. They're controlling our southern border as a result of that as well. And these Venezuelan crime organizations are actually operating here in America. Joe Biden is literally inviting them in because there is zero vetting that's going on. And if, again, there is no information, which you would have no information on Venezuelans, they're invited into the country and given the white glove treatment. It's shocking, and it's no surprise that we're seeing this sort of crime. So President Trump is going to have a very difficult time, but I can tell you he's deliberate. He's a business person. He figures things out, and I think he will do his very best to try to remove those people that have committed crimes here in America. And that's what we need to do. I'd rather see them removed before they commit any crimes. They should be turned around, deported, sent back home. But the fact is, many, many people have come in, roughly 10 million have come in on Joe Biden's watch. We're going to have to work with law enforcement. President Trump will work with local law enforcement closely to try and find people that have committed crimes and put them at the top of the list for deportation. You come here illegally and they commit yet another crime, you're going home.
Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Senator Bill Hagerty is joining us on the Newsmaker Hotline. Senator, you're part of the Senate Foreign Relations Committee. Let's talk about Haiti real quick. Of course, we know that former President Donald Trump famously called this country a crap hole country. Now we have Haiti's current prime minister, Ariel Henry. I guess that's Henry. Yeah, Henry. He is basically in Puerto Rico. There's all kinds of unrest going on in Haiti. You've got 4,000 gang members that have been released by Henry's political opposition, and the country is in complete chaos. And so now the question is, the Biden administration, they are preparing for migrants to come from Haiti to America. Now, we already know that migrants are coming to America anyway from Haiti and all over the world. But the question is there a concern that with these 4,000 plus gang members that have been released from these Haiti prisons, these Haitian prisons, is there a concern that they're going to come here?
I think it's a very deep concern, Dan. And when I talked with law enforcement at the border, this is Texas National Guard and U.S. Border Patrol. They said that the Haitians that are already coming in have been very, very violent. These gangs are running the situation. It's lawless in Haiti right now. It's a very desperate situation there. And I think Joe Biden's, tendency is to just invite everybody in, regardless of how much danger that presents to the United States of America. So it's rightfully a deep, deep concern that that lawless element is going to flow into America because Biden, yet again, has opened our borders. Haitians are already given preference coming into America, and I think we're going to see it get even worse given what's happening there. The country is so destabilized. And when you have this type of incentive to come in, we're going to see even more of this sort of challenge and more of this sort of lawlessness occur in on our own shores as people flee Haiti.
Let me ask you. You know, the president's polling numbers, they are really low. Everybody knows how low they are. I'm going to go over them coming up at 6:35 here on WTN. When you look at how poorly the president's polling numbers are, then you look at Donald Trump's polling numbers, and they're actually doing really well, especially compared to Joe Biden. Obviously, it's not a slam dunk that Joe Biden is going to be the eventual candidate for the Democrats. We don't know what could happen at the convention. We also don't know what's going to happen with Donald Trump. But now that basically Nikki Haley has dropped out, how do you see President Donald Trump, former President Trump, perhaps future President Donald Trump, how do you see him connecting with those Republicans who we would call as anti-Trumpers? Is there a way to reach those folks?
I think there certainly is, and I think that it's happening right now. A number of people sort of had to go through the process of seeing Nikki Haley drop out and realizing that, look, Donald Trump is going to be our nominee. It's been obvious to me for some time that's the case, but as of Super Tuesday, I think it's obvious to everybody that is a Republican that Donald Trump is our nominee. I think it's time to get behind our nominee and think very carefully about what the alternative is, and the alternative is a President Joe Biden for another 4 years. Nobody wants that. So if you have difficulty or challenges with the personality of Donald Trump, and that I think that has been an issue for a number of people in the Republican Party, I think they've got to think hard about what the alternative is. I think they're going to get on board. I think they're going to see that Donald Trump, as they ask themselves this basic question, were we better off as a nation 4 years ago than we are today? The answer is very, very clear. Yes, we were. Donald Trump's policies worked. His leadership worked. And we were in a far better place. Joe Biden has put us in danger around the world. He's destroyed our economy. He's certainly destroyed our southern border and put crime as the number one issue, on the table for everybody in America, particularly those in cities. So I think you're going to see a migration very rapidly toward President Trump and the Republican Party. I think then the challenge becomes appealing to independents, and more people are describing themselves as independent. But again, when they come down to the basic questions of the economy, their safety, and our national security, it's hands down Donald Trump.
Senator, let me ask you. I know that you and others are asking for Iran to be censured because of their nuclear enrichment activity. It has been tripled. It has tripled by the end of last year. And so we know that clearly Joe Biden over the past 3 years has been complicit in Iran, been funding Iran. We all know about Iran funding Hamas and the Houthis and all these other terrorist organizations. Talk about, and I hate to do this, but in 90 seconds or less, talk about the danger that Iran currently poses as opposed to where they were when Donald Trump was in office, and then how that changed when Joe Biden took office.
Well, first, Dan, I want to say you have been great about connecting the dots on Iran, because everything done by Hamas, by Hezbollah, and Houthis is backed by Iran. It's their technology, it's their funding, it's their know-how that's behind all of this destabilization. And the only reason they're able to do it is just because of what you're getting at. Under Donald Trump, we had reduced Iran's foreign currency reserves to below $8 billion. Joe Biden comes in office, ceases to enforce the sanctions that we worked so hard to put in place. It was called the maximum pressure campaign. My job, for example, was to get the Japanese to stop buying Iranian crude oil. We did that around the world back during the Trump administration. The Iranians came back from a financial standpoint, and by May of 2021, we saw the 11-day war from Hamas into Israel. They put all of their terrorist proxies into business. This is directly a result of Joe Biden's appeasement of Iran, again, thinking that somehow by appeasing Iran and letting them sell oil, letting them regain their revenues, that he was going to coax them into this JCPOA, the famous Iran deal that was such a disaster. We went from less than 4% enrichment under President Trump to over 60% enrichment now under Biden. It's completely failed. Biden is now allowing Iran to fund the entirety of this destabilization in the Middle East. This blood is on his hands, and he consistently continues to deny it and tries to fund both sides of this war.
All right, Senator, as always, great to have you on. Say hello to Governor Lee for us, and we'll talk again soon.